Well, hello everybody. Matt Williamson back here on a nice walk through the woods. Got a beautiful day here. The sun is peeking through, but it's kind of nice to be in the shade, especially in the woods. Get good color for the video. And I'm here with Bogey. I'll show you him in a minute. There he is. There you go. He needed to get out in the worst way today. Come on. And I needed to get a video out before the weekend. That was my plan anyway. And so what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about McCartney's Dungeon Lane, the Boys of Dungeon Lane. And I was asked to do this by many people. And typically, as many of you know, I'm not a big fan of the newer music. And it called to mind when I did some reviewing of the McCartney III album that's already almost 6 years old, 5.5 years old. And he had done that during COVID, and the first new thing he had done in a while. And that was the first one that had, my commentary on that was not on the music, it was on the marketing campaign. And even that drew the ire of some fans. And as you well know, the marketing these days that includes all these multiple versions is pretty standard in the industry. So McCartney didn't invent that. I mean, ask Taylor Swift. She's got 11 number one albums in a row to boot, so she uses that to her full advantage. So that's just normal. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because it seems like Dungeon Lane is following a similar marketing pattern as McCartney III, though the content is different. So where do I begin? Let's see here. Okay, so I typically like to hold off listening to anything new after a lot of the hoopla dies down. I've seen lots of stuff of the new McCartney album particularly on Facebook. I don't watch a lot of videos. I didn't watch any video reviews of it, although you'll see thumbnails of people buying whatever the latest version is or talking about the tracks or whatever. And I was at a buddy's place this week, and he said, "Hey, have you heard the album?" Because he's got the album on CD, and he really liked it. So, well, I should listen to it at some point, I suppose. And I knew I would get around to it, but I didn't plan to do a video. But this is the video I plan to not do. And it's hard for me not to compare the new album with McCartney III, because I've heard, like my buddy, some people have compared the new one to Ram. I'm like, really? I am much more comfortable comparing it with more of his recent work, because I think it's they're more alike in many ways. Production style, his age, of course. So let me back up, because I never really reviewed the music of McCartney III. The marketing campaign, I didn't have a lot of good things to say about just the industry in general. And so let's talk about the music first. We'll get to the math later. Never do math on YouTube, they say. Well, I'm going to be doing a little bit math. There were some people challenged out there on YouTube doing videos who don't understand the math of some of these releases. So I will help out in that capacity. Generally, the Boys of Dungeon Lane album, I like it better than McCartney III by quite a lot. In that, the Boys of Dungeon Lane just seems more honest. It seems more genuine. He's talking about his past. This album, unlike McCartney III, is super heavy on the sentiment. Very sentimental. And I think this is by design. The last album, McCartney III, one of the reasons I did not like that album is when McCartney's trying to be experimental. It's like, dude, you don't have to be experimental. You burned all the trails many years ago. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Although some of his fans think that's the coolest thing. Oh, look at how varied and how versatile he is. Well, I don't look at it that way. Anybody can copy. I can do that. Not very well, probably, but I could do it. So I prefer the Boys of Dungeon Lane based on that. I think that McCartney clearly was playing on sentiment, because I think he also understood that the fans would understand that. Most of his fans are older, my age and older, so that's gonna resonate with them. We all know McCartney's history. He talks a lot about his father and mother, places that he grew up. So I think that because we know the history, we could kind of have some kind of an understanding of where he's coming from on some of these lyrics, like instantly. We didn't have to read a book, a lyrics book, or we didn't have to be told what the song means, because I think we kind of knew. Oh, here comes somebody here. Let me just wait. Oh, there's a squirrel. Careful, careful. Because we knew of a lot of McCartney's past, I think that just made some of the songs instantly familiar to us. And I think that's what the familiarity, I think, is a lot of what the positive reviews are based on. I was surprised. All the reviews I've seen and I've read some reviews. There was a couple mixed reviews, but generally speaking, they came around. They were mixed to positive. And then in the YouTube space, I mean, overwhelmingly positive. So when I heard it, I was expecting more. So I was disappointed overall. Although I would say, like McCartney does in a lot of his stuff, and a lot on this album, there are parts of songs that I thought, wow, this is a really good little section he's got going here. But it doesn't last. And it doesn't maintain. But so what does that tell you? Well, I mean, he can still do it. Come up with some really sharp stuff, but man, to do a full album, full songs even, the songs are relatively short. And let's go, careful, buddy. Got a bridge here. It's falling apart. Let's see this. Not much left of this bridge here. So I was impressed with some of the parts of the song, certain songs, but I didn't find any one song that I liked all the way through. Not a single one. And after hearing some of these gushing reports of some of these songs, I just expected more. They got my hopes up. so that's the problem with seeing any kind of reviews in advance. I was trying to avoid it, but some you just see. And the ones I read about were a little bit more by journalists, so it had that whole journalist feel. And again, they were largely positive, I think. And why are people positive? I think I ran into some problems when I did my review of McCartney III, which I just reviewed from a marketing sense. Come on, let's go this way. We got a dead end over there. Sorry for that, I'm back. Bogey and I saw somebody else, we had to stop. So I think I was talking about McCartney's, the new songs, and how I really like certain parts of the new songs, but really didn't find any songs that grabbed me all the way through. And that was a little disappointing. Now, getting back to what I was going to say earlier, I'd forgotten, I kind of thought in that little break there, and that is, what are our expectations of Paul McCartney at this date? And what I find, anytime you give any kind of criticism, if you criticism as an artist, as a legit musician who can still bring it, and if there's any negativity, well, people have a problem with that. Oh, he's an old guy, he's 83. They want to have it both ways. No kidding, he's 83. But still, you can't just hide behind that. You can't say that everything's wonderful. Of course, he doesn't sound like he used to when he was younger. I don't think anybody expects that. Although I think that's where he maybe went a little bit awry on some of his last couple of albums, doing more of the auto to the pitch correction stuff, fixing everything in post. I didn't find that on this new album. That's another reason I liked it. His old voice sounds appropriate for the songs he's singing. So, I mean, generally speaking, I think this album is as much as one could expect from him. I think he exceeded many expectations from what I hear. I mean, what we'll see, though, is how it fares over time. Which brings me to, let's go this way. When you gonna stop? Which brings me to McCartney III, which for all intents and purposes, is a forgotten album. And I think that it is worthwhile discussing this idea that the marketing, people get this marketing fatigue. So there's kind of a couple levels of it, I suppose. You've got your casual fans that, well, all these versions, I just want to hear the album. And then not only that, you've got McCartney, he's got to do all the publicity for this. That's very normal. He was on that what was that interview? Somebody sent me that. That was nice. It was kind of predictable. He's got to do this stuff. He couldn't have a number one without, Chipmunk. Okay, come on, Bogey. Sorry for the starts and stops. Bogey just got into something and he just threw up. So he's having a good old time out here. Anyway, talking about McCartney doing publicity. And, he's on Colbert. They're running him ragged doing all this stuff. And without all the publicity, he really works hard. I got to give the guy credit. And he, there would be no number one record in the United Kingdom without this publicity, and without him going on these shows and going on the BBC and doing TikTok and all that stuff. So, and that part, again, there's nothing to be ashamed about to do that. It's not like you're whoring yourself out. That's what everybody does. That's part of the game. Hell, the Beatles did that. So there is that. Now, getting back to the number one album, people, I think, he had the number one in the UK. Now, this is the second time in a row he's done this. This happened with McCartney III. And the sales in Great Britain are rather easy to tally. It doesn't take that. It's not like the old days where you needed 250,000 sales to place in, say, the top 25. Maybe not even then. So I think some people, they don't want to give the credit, the credit of having a number one in the UK to these extra versions of these albums. And I'm sorry, but the math is clear. The thing about, it's very easy to figure out. You've got several versions that are limited copies, and you know exactly how many copies there are. So when they sell out, you know how many sold. So let's say you've got about 35,000 units to make a number one record, which is, I think, about what happened with the Boys of Dungeon Lane. And there's about 5,000 limited edition that sell out. Well, that's 15% of your sales. That is a substantial amount. You take that 15% away, that album's not number one. So this talk about, come on. You okay? Yeah, you're okay. So anyway, this talk about, everybody's just buying this album because they love it. The whole idea to move units is to play upon the collector. It's part of the game, and you can't not include that. And I think McCartney knows that. I don't know how many versions there are. I took a screen cap. There was more than I thought of this new one. I thought maybe he wouldn't do as many, but I forgot about the CDs. So this graphic I'm going to show you has got an unbelievable amount. So, there's something there for everybody, I guess, except for me. Getting back to the fatigue of all this marketing stuff, I think that takes such focus off the music. Now, the question I have for you, and this is not an answerable question until we let some years pass, but how will this album fare over the next 5 years from now? So McCartney III, I don't think it's fared well, and partly because I think it's not as authentic as the Boys from Dungeon Land. I think that's part of it. I think the sentiment will give it a little more longevity and a little more meaning to people and to fans. Whereas McCartney III, I viewed as more, he's doing some experimental stuff. I thought that was a pretty lousy album, actually. Now, he's only had, people are saying that this album, the new one, rivals the Chaos and Creation of the Backyard, which I think was 2005, maybe? Can't remember. And that may be, but there's only been about 5 albums since. So there's not, in this newer period of the 2000s, where will this one land? And Chaos and Creation is probably the best I've heard in this century. of course, he was younger, and he was more on top of his game. And I think that goes without saying. I mean, that would be a reason why that would be better. One of the things I was disappointed with the new album here, Dungeon Lane, is I thought the lyrics were not good. I mean, some of the, I was surprised at how trite some of them were. And I think that's a valid, nope, not the chipmunk. I think that's a valid criticism. Not that he's expected to have great lyrics, because he's typically not. I mean, not for me anyway. So I wasn't expecting anything, but I was a little surprised there wasn't at least a little more care in that department. What are you gonna do? I mean, that's, for what it's like an accomplishment, and, sorry, gotta turn around here, I got tangled up. I mean, overall, 83-year-old guy, it's still an accomplishment, but let's not lose sight of where he is in his career. It's at the end. He's about done. And again, as I've been saying, he hasn't needed to do any of this stuff for years. His legacy is cemented, and nothing can change that, I don't think. I suppose he could get canceled in some fashion, but yeah, probably not. Is this album a satisfying career capper? If this is his last studio album, how do you feel about that? Number one, if it is his last, which wouldn't be surprised, I don't think to many, if it was his last, but is this a satisfying close? Now, I think it'll take some time to understand the quality of this album, because it usually takes time. Time has to pass to put it in perspective. And I think we can do that with his last several albums quite easily. Will this one surpass those? Yeah, maybe it will. It might. I think if it does, it will have to do with the sentimentality. Because the instrumentation it's okay. There's nothing that stood out to me very big on this album, other than the sentiment. And then it was rather evenly played. And I like the fact that the songs were shorter. He got a little bit full of himself in that last album. He was doing some longer stuff, as I recall. That did not help the song, just made me want to turn it off sooner. So I think he took that into account with doing this album, and it seemed like he made an effort to connect more on a personal level with his fans with this album. So I think that's a good thing. I think that was the right move to do, and it shows that I think he's thinking of the fans. Okay, Bogey's back in shape here. Walking around, where are you, Bogey? There you are. Oh, he's got to make a pit stop again. Beautiful day today. So yeah, I wanted to get out here today and do a quick video, and I'm going to get back. The next thing I'm working on is a band video that I mentioned. I will be doing the Dillards next, so I don't always pre-promote my stuff because I don't always know what I'm going to do next, but I think that forces me to do that one next. So I've got about 3 others in the works as well. So we're going to have a busy summer here. I will here on Pop Goes the 60s. So I appreciate all your support. I know you bought some of the new merchandise. Thank you. People are leaving tips in the tip jar below. I've had some additional people join Patreon, so that's also very helpful. And it's getting harder. I'm struggling more and more. The copyright people are coming after me, so I'll update you on that at some point in the future. But I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So we'll see you in the next episode here on Pop Goes the 60s.